Everybody, welcome to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, the drinking show with a Gen X problem. I'm Laura the Boy, and I'm here with Bill Perkins, who has opinions.
I do. I brought some with.
You never leave home without them.
I probably don't. That's true.
So, how are you? I actually just saw you yesterday.
Oh, gosh. I got a funny story. This happened to me today.
Oh, wow.
So I walk out to the garage this morning to get some more creamer out of the extra refrigerator outside in the garage, right?
Sure.
That's where we keep the backup creamers when we run out of the creamers, you know? So I go out there to get backup creamer, and I walk out, and there is a note rope out in the garage. A copperhead snake was in my garage. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I was
so
like,
what do you do in that instance?
I backed up is what I did. I backed the fuck up. I was like, what? Because I was, I haven't even had coffee yet, right? I'm kind of like, and I was walking over. I was walking over to throw the empty creamer bottle in the recycling bin, and I walked over there and I saw it, and I was like, whoa, no, that's not good.
That's not the kind of snake you want to
No.
run. I mean, there are a lot of very, useful snakes. And
I mean, he's probably useful.
He's useful, but he's also venomous.
Yeah, so I don't want to deal with that. So that's anyway. So I go back in the house. I walk back in the house, and then I was like, oh, I forgot to get the new creamer because I got disoriented about the whole situation.
Right.
So then I walk back out there and get the new creamer. He wasn't beside the fridge. He was over by the recycle bin. Is where he was, and I walked back out there and I stared at him for another minute or two, and I was like, all right. I was like, okay, well, I said this is not good, and it's not good for you either. The situation's not going to work out, And then I grabbed the creamer, and went back in, and had my coffee. I worked for a couple hours, and then at some point during the day, I was like, I'm gonna put some boots on, and I'm gonna go out there, and I'm gonna beat that snake to death with a stick.
Oh,
and it's not because I advocate the killing of snakes. Okay, I do not. If there was a black rat snake in my garage, he would be welcome to stay.
You'd build him a little house.
I would assume he was there for a reason. And honest to God, this one's probably there for a fucking reason. I'm sure that there's a mouse out there that I could stand to get rid of, However, I can't have something that's deadly living in my garage.
Right. Yes. You're not in Australia.
Yeah. So this is the only reason why he's gonna die is I'm like, you broke the treaty. The treaty I have, which is that no deadly animals are allowed to come in my house. If you want to live in the woods outside my house, more power to you, I guess. I don't know you're out there, fucking, But now that you've been in my garage, now I know, and I'm aware of you, and you have to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, though, I go out there later on after I suited up to go deal with it.
Right.
I put on my snake stomping boots, and I got out there, and I had a stick, and he was nowhere. I opened the garage door, and I moved the recycle bin, and I moved the trash bin, and he wasn't under either one of those. And then I started taking the stick and poking around it. And our garage is a fucking wreck right now. So it's just I'm ransacking these just piles of shit everywhere. I was unable to rouse him from anything. So at this point, what I can tell you is I've got Schrodinger's venomous snake.
Right.
He either is or isn't now in my garage. Because he could have left through the same way whence he came.
Sure. Or he could.
And if he was hip, he would. Because what he's got coming to him is a severe beatdown.
Or you could have a new roommate who happens to be a venomous snake.
I'm going to try again in the morning. I'll go out there. Here's the thing I noticed. I started thinking about it later in the day, and I was like, so here was the setup. When I first went out there in the morning, I turned the garage light on, which probably caught him by surprise because he was crawling through like the middle of the garage at the time,
right?
Because it was all dark in there, and he was just like, cool, whatever. And then I turned the light on, and he was like, oh.
freeze.
What's this? Yeah, he was probably like, that's different. And so then the rest of the day, the garage light was on.
Right.
And I'm going out there. And so if he is in the garage, he's hidden under something to get away from the light.
Right.
So my plan is tomorrow morning, the garage light will go off tonight. I'll go out there in the morning. I'll be pre-suited up, ready to kill a snake. And I'll go out there and see if I catch him out in the middle of the garage again.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
And if I don't, I'll assume he's gone.
Hopefully you don't get bit. So,
well,
he's hopefully going to be at a stick distance from you.
It's a big stick. No, he won't be in striking distance of me. That's not going to happen. I'm smart enough that ain't happening. No, he's gonna get a boop on the head, and that'll be the end of it.
I did once right after we moved to Georgia. So there are no venomous snakes in Michigan. So I didn't grow up with the fear of snakes in any way, shape, or form. Happened, right? So when we moved to Georgia, I remember one of the first we went on. There's a bike trail, a really cool paved bike trail that goes through multiple counties in Atlanta. In the Atlanta area, and we were riding on the little bike trail, and Matt decided because he has a off-road bike where I did not. He wanted to go off-road for a minute. I'm like, okay, have fun. And I just kept pedaling along on the little trail, boop, boop, boop. And I see a snake, and I'm like, oh, look, a snake! Oh, how cute, a little snake! So I get off my bike, and I go over and I take pictures of the little snake, and he's like, slither. Getting off the road, and he gets off into the grass, and he's gone, and I'm like, oh, look at a cute little snake. And I get back on my bike and I keep riding, and then I realize after I looked at the pictures, and mind you, this was the early 2000s, so they weren't phone pictures. Right, okay. They were on my digital camera, so I couldn't look at them again until later.
Okay.
So I once I downloaded them to my computer and looked at them, I was like, I don't know, what kind of snake is that? What kind of snake is that? And I searched, I looked. And I was like, oh, shit, no, that's not a good snake. That's the wrong snake. I should not have gotten very close to that snake. Apparently, I'm very
So
mad
which snake was it?
It was a copperhead.
Okay.
Oh.
They're very distinct. They've got like a Hershey Kiss design on it. They look like it's like a light brown snake with a bunch of Hershey Kisses down the side. And that's the first thing I saw when I saw it was the Hershey Kisses. And I was like, nope. Yeah, no, I've learned my lesson. Now I know the difference between the good snakes and the bad snakes. And I'm actually a fan of snakes. And I am too. And honestly, even I don't think it's his fault for being venomous. He couldn't help it. Right. But he can't be in my. He just can't be in my garage. He just cannot live with you. Yes, that's where I draw the line. That's fair. So yeah, I feel bad that I have to kill the snake, but if I see him again, he's dying. That's fair. Sorry. That's fair. I think when you have a serial killer living in your house, at some point you just have to kill it back before it kills you. Just like, sorry, guy, but I'm going to hit you in the head with a hammer in the middle of the night. Exactly. That's what's happening. Exactly. Well, all right then. Okay, so moving on. We got some beers. That's here. How I am. To answer your question. Well, I'm glad you're alive and not poisoned by venom. Yeah. But you brought us a new beer to try today, so we might as well dip into that. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So you brought the Wicked Weed Dr. Dank Pineapple Dream. So obviously we've talked about it on the show before. Big fans of Sweetwater's Going Coastal, which is a pineapple-y tropical IPA. Sure, yeah. So you keep trying to recreate that. I do. So I saw this at the store. I saw it for sale, and I said, well, all right. So here's, yes. I don't love it. Okay. In the taste I've had of it so far. And I'm usually like a lot of IPAs. But I will tell you, I think the reason I don't like it is because anytime a beer company calls something dank, I'm probably not going to like it. They just mean this tastes awful. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. They should have called it Dr. Awful. But then you wouldn't buy it. That's true. But, so that's true. I also just like the brewery, and I do not tend to buy things from them. Yeah, on the regular, I usually don't either. I just saw it, and I was like, yeah. I do not normally buy Wicked Weed. They started out as a local Asheville brewery, and then they got bought by Anheuser-Busch. And then there were also some political affiliation problems locally. So was not a fan, but yeah, I do not like dank. And so hops, for anyone who doesn't know, hops and cannabis are in the same family, botanical family. So the hops in the wrong hands, or the wrong kind of hops in the wrong hands, just end up tasting muddy and weedy. And I don't like it.
but it's on purpose. You know, they do it.
They're trying to get like some crossover appeal with the stoners, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, Dr. Dank, yeah, it's cool. I don't think this guy's a real doctor either, for what it's worth. Well, I would like to see his credentials.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I mean, it's not even that pineapple-y, really.
It's not. It's got the very least amount of pineapple, and it's not enough to overpower the hoppiness, which is the dank hoppiness of it. Yes.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, Sweetwater, which does go in coastal, is actually known for being stoner beer.
Yeah, they've got one that smells like fucking weed. Like one that from across the room, you'll be like, somebody's smoking weed.
I tried that one once, and it was
god awful. But
if I liked weed, I suppose that'd be different. But I did not.
If you like drinking bong water, you'd be like, shit, yes.
And their entire brand. I mean, that's their flagship beer is called 420, mm-hmm. and they actually have also sold to a larger conglomerate. But it's actually a cannabis company.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, Sweetwater is now owned by a cannabis brand. Oh,
so interesting.
That's happened.
Yeah.
So anyway.
This one, so long story short, if you see it in the store, you can pass on by. It's not any good. Don't buy it.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, if you want something truly tropical and truly pineapple, this is not it.
No, this is awful. It's not. And the one I brought a couple weeks ago was very good. It was a good pineapple beer.
Yeah, that one had like a full-on like pina colada flavor.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Very tasty.
I liked it. But this is terrible.
This I do not love. I will finish it, but it's not great.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe, and we've talked about this on the show before, like IPAs are not meant to be tasted in a sip. Like the more you drink them, the more complex the flavors become and the more mellow they become. And usually, it can mellow for you as you're drinking it. This is not one of those.
No, it's as awful at the end of the glass as it was to start.
Yeah, it's not particularly great. All right, but we're not talking about cannabis flavored beer today. What we're actually talking about, it took me a while to get a title for this episode because it was a concept we talked about a while back.
Yeah.
But it's mostly about on television. The typical whodunit TV shows where the person solving the murders on the regular is not in any way, shape, or form a trained detective.
Right. They're always some other kind of they're from some other industry and they've been pulled into this somehow.
Yes. And
I just thought of one that you forgot.
Oh, okay.
Actually two.
Oh, okay. Write them down there.
Sorry.
Okay. I have a whole list and a whole series of classifications. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and the other one that goes with that starts with an H.
Does it?
Well, this is the one I was thinking. If there's more.
Oh, does he solve murders?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, medical mysteries.
I never watched that.
Anyway.
No. Here's the other one was.
Oh yeah. So those are other. Yeah, those. Yes, and the two go very well together. Yes. Anyway, we'll get to those.
All right.
We will get to those indeed.
Yeah. But, sorry, guys. I was just making notes that we didn't have notes of yet.
So, and to be fair, it came up because we were talking. I'm a big fan of like a lot of supernatural themed TV shows.
Yeah.
But one of the tropes of a lot of supernatural shows is like this supernatural being somehow assists the local PD with their murder investigations. And I'm like, how is that okay? Like that doesn't seem like if the devil is helping you solve a murder.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not.
And
really...
I brought this up a couple weeks ago and asked Matt's legal advice on it. If the devil's pointed the finger at me, if the cop said, "Hey, we know you did it," and the reason is because Lucifer Morningstar says he thinks you did it, I'm going to have that, that's going to come, my lawyer is going to say something about that in court.
So funny because I did ask Matt. Do you want us to get Matt in here?
Yeah, get Matt in here. Let's talk about this legally.
If you want to.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, later on the show, maybe.
Well, if you had his legal opinion already.
Technically, we did ask you weeks ago, but.
You didn't say it was for this show. I didn't know I was going to be on that show.
All right. Fair enough.
But
it really isn't difficult. It wouldn't be thrown out. You can get evidence from any number of places.
Okay.
So,
but no, it's not just that. It's not about the evidence. It's about that he is he or any of these fools is sitting in on the police investigation.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's the part. That's the part where I feel like you could be like,
that seems challenging.
You had some amateur,
rando person.
You had the devil or a novelist or something sitting in on the fucking investigation, meddling with shit.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like the evidence is tainted. Like we're not accepting it. How's that? And I feel like that would probably be a perfectly good defense.
I think there is some legal gray area, and we are not lawyers, so we cannot answer that question. But
I have watched a lot of law programs,
which are so very realistic. But yeah, so there, and then there are other.
I object.
One of my other favorite categories is the murder author. Suddenly there's this novelist who seems to be at the center of every murder in your small town. Like, doesn't this seem?
Yeah, you start to go, hey,
disturbing.
This guy knows an awful lot about murder,
and
he seems to always be around when there's a murder. And I'm starting to think maybe. Yeah, I mean, that was a joke I think got on an old joke from the '80s was murder she wrote, murder she created.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, okay, we're going to dive in after the station break, but let's real quick. This has nothing to do with murders, or unless Radiant Paws Pet Massage, the dogs assist in solving murders in Metro Detroit.
So wouldn't that be a cool spinoff thing?
Yeah, it really would. Yeah.
The dog helps solve. It's like Wishbone meets one of these other.
Wishbone meets like Psych or something.
Yeah, exactly. So the dogs always that would be neat, wouldn't it?
I think that would.
The dog helps solve the murders,
but like the person is an animal communicator and can talk to the animals.
Right. Oh yeah. He said my dog. And he talked to other animals too. Sometimes like he'll go into place and like the parrot will tell him like,
right.
I saw it all. I saw it all.
Exactly. But in real life, if you live in near the Ferndale, Michigan area, and you have a pampered pooch, or you have a dog that needs some help with some medical issues. Maybe they're going a little slower. Maybe they're getting a little older. Maybe they got some stress in their lives.
Arthritis, maybe.
Yeah. So check out Radiant Paws Pet Massage.
Hip dysplasia.
All those things. You can just do all those things. So check it out.
They need some Reiki, and that'll make them feel better.
They do. Well, I mean, Reiki does. I mean, it can.
And dogs just like being touched anyway.
That's true. Yeah, cats, on the other hand.
I mean, hit and miss.
Cat massage isn't quite the.
You should see the cat masseuse is
just covered in Band-Aids and bleeding. Yeah, exactly.
That's not anything anybody's signing up quick to do.
No. All right. So before we dig into the topic at hand, basically what we're going with is sort of the overarching whodunit TV trope, right?
Okay, right.
And these are I've created a whole bunch of categories and a whole bunch of things under these categories. Yes. And they're very loose categories. So as we talk about them, there's a lot of crossover in some of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But there are also three kind of overarching categories of these shows in general. And that's the whodunit, which is the typical, like a Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
Then there's the howdunit, which is one where the audience knows who did it. It's just that the mystery is about solving.
Okay, so that's more like the lawyer show, where the lawyer's trying to get his client off by proving that someone else had to have done it.
Right.
That's like the Perry Mason.
Right.
We recently watched Matlock. We recently watched 2 seasons of The Lincoln Lawyer, and it's the same kind of show.
Yeah.
Same kind of show. He's got to prove why his client couldn't have done it.
Right.
He's basically just trying to plant doubt, but in doing so, he points the finger at someone else, which is always a funny thing to me, I think, when I watch these kinds of programs, is I'm like, because like, sometimes they'll do this thing like where they accuse the person in court. Yeah. And then that person immediately breaks down.
Yeah. It's like I confessed to
everything.
My God.
I would have died. And I thought I was going to pull it off. And you're like, who the fuck would, like, nobody would really confess to all that. I'd be like, I am shocked. I say I never,
Exactly.
That's how I'd be. I'd shut the fuck up. And like, You ain't got nothing out of me, buddy.
And then there's a little bit, there are some shows that are kind of a why done it. Like, you know who did it, you know how they did it, but then the mystery is like why it happened, how this
that's like the why women kill.
Right.
Was because it said
right.
why. It said why right there in the title.
Right there.
Why? Why do women kill? Turns out because guys got on their nerves.
Right. So the first category, and technically this does not fit into unqualified detective. This is exactly, Jay. You can't handle the truth. These are actual professional legal or crime solving people.
Actual sleuths.
Actual people who do the job for a living. And in some cases, these aren't even like private investigators, because that kind of is its own thing.
Right.
Oh, there's another supernatural one I remember.
Okay.
Let me write that down real quick. Okay. I spelled that wrong. But so in the actual detectives, so these aren't unqualified people, but they kind of started the genre, right? Like these whodunits are what kind of created this situation.
God, I can't remember I'm trying to remember the character name.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's name? You remember the character?
Well, Kojak.
Okay, yeah.
So Kojak is one of those.
Yeah.
In Columbo, Get Smart, Dragnet. So like a lot of those were older shows that are now would be considered like vintage shows. But
sure.
The original Perry Mason, I mean, he was a lawyer, but in the original comics, he started out as a private detective.
Okay, so he started as a detective and became
a lawyer. Yeah.
Okay, but in the show, he was a lawyer who just used this type of cross-examination.
Yes.
Whereas he would basically solve the actual murder in order to free his client.
Which I'm pretty sure that doesn't fly very well in the courtroom.
I feel like that never, but it happens all the time on legal shows.
Right, but it literally never happens in the actual
I was fairly certain too, that this never happens in real life. Or if it happens very, very, very infrequently.
Right.
Very seldom does your lawyer actually figure out who the actual killer is. They don't care. It's just their job to say why you didn't do it.
Correct, yes. Then you got like the adventure, Magnum PI. I mean, he was a private investigator, but it's really an adventure show.
He gets caught up in hijinks and such, yes.
I did want to include, of course, a favorite, Twin Peaks, because it really even though it's this weird one murder, small town mystery, it does feature Special Agent Dale Cooper, who is an FBI agent, which brings me then to Hannibal, which of course is about a particular cannibal. But it starts out and like the first season is all like murders of the week, and an actual FBI investigator is investigating it. He just happens to be Will Graham, and eventually gets caught up in a whole drama with Hannibal. So, and then Bones, like that, because she's a forensic anthropologist, right? So technically she is a professional helping other professionals, which would be a thing, but I don't think she would normally she would look at evidence, but wouldn't necessarily be like, let's get in the field and solve this murder. Yeah. So for like a real forensic.
Yeah, they do that a lot. They make the forensic people go out and do things. Dexter. Yeah. Is more hands-on than probably he ought to be.
Would be, yes.
Well, I mean, and he's a murderer and a forensic person,
right? Which I think kind of falls under like the Hannibal, you got this weird dynamic. So I mean, many of these things are crossovers.
And then I was trying to CSI.
Oh yeah,
same kind of thing.
Those obviously like the Law and Orders and the CSIs and the NCISs and stuff. They're their own genre of whodunit.
Or maybe it's NCIS. I'm trying to. What's the one with the goth girl who's the forensic?
I don't watch it. It's all of them. All of them have the goth girl that's the forensic expert.
Because
or the technical expert.
Because who would want to be in a morgue and poke at dead bodies, but a goth girl?
Right. I mean, it's to all of them. But then, because the conversation moved to, from like real detectives doing actual detective work.
Real Detective.
Real Detective is one of those, yes. But then the Supernet, because that's where it came from. Like, I was watching Lucifer, which is all about like the actual devil, who nobody believes is the devil, because who would do that? Is truly helping the local cops.
Right.
But doing it through he can manipulate people because he's the fucking devil. So, he gets people to confess to things when they probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I believe that once you have that that evidence, you can use that evidence, but still. But there's and then that brought me to Angel, which is a spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
And he starts Angel investigations and he helps out the local police. So, I mean, he's a fucking vampire. And then some
gosh, the iZombie. She's a forensic scientist.
That's bold. Yeah, so
she's a zombie.
She's a zombie, so she's an actual forensic person, not detective specifically, but is also supernatural. So yeah. Well, that made me think of Pushing Daisies, which is a great show where it's a private detective, but also a dead girl. And also a guy who has the power to bring the dead back to life for a very brief time. So the private investigator has him go into the morgue, asks
and he pokes the corpse and says, "Hey, who killed you?
Who killed you?" Right. So this private detective is now just acing the cases because he has this, incredible experience. But there was that show. Do you remember the show Sleepy Hollow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, briefly. I watched the first 3 episodes and then pieced out because I thought it was dumb as fuck.
It was stupid.
But there was a 300-year-old dead guy or something
who happened to be Hot Ichabod Crane.
Right, Hot Ichabod Crane, who somehow or other time warped.
Yeah, there was some sort of supernatural situation.
He wound up in the future and he's helping the cops.
Solve murder somehow
while he's trying to catch the headless horseman or something.
Right. Yeah.
Who also time warped to the future.
Yes.
It was like a combination of a cop show and one of those really shitty time travel romance films.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It was so stupid. So stupid.
I was just like, this is terrible. I couldn't.
And then you have supernatural shows where the people are solving supernatural crimes. So they're not necessarily helping the police in any way, but they're certainly not qualified.
They might be the police.
They might sometimes impersonate the police.
Or they're a type of law enforcement.
Correct. Like the X-Files, obviously, is a classic. But supernatural, they just pretend to be FBI agents while they're solving their crimes.
What's a crime in itself, is it not? Impersonating an FBI agent?
It is legitimately. Yeah, no, because I watched most of Supernatural. I was a huge fan for a long time. But after the first, 7 episodes, I'm like, how are they not in prison?
The thing I couldn't get behind Supernatural, I felt like Supernatural was coattailing X-Files so much.
Some of the monsters of the week.
The monster of the week was
exactly
the same shit I'd already seen on X-Files. Secondly, they went and hired half the fucking cast of X-Files to be on Supernatural. So I felt like this is trying too fucking hard, And then they stole little bits and pieces from other things too, because the Castile character is just Constantine from DC Comics, basically.
Right. And I also, I think I was a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan for a long time. I think it also borrowed a lot from that. And Buffy falls under the supernatural category, but also under the teen sleuths category.
Oh, they're the teen
sleuths. Which is later, because they were teen sleuths.
Oh yeah, I remember another teen sleuth.
Another teen.
Sorry. It's tertiary to this one, the male equivalent.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, was there a TV show about that?
Yes, there was. As a matter of fact, there was a series in the 70s.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Because the other one, they just started the new series, which I've never seen. All right. So then we go from there to unqualified people who help the police.
Sure.
So not necessarily supernatural beings, but people who are not in any way, shape, or form qualified to be
shouldn't be boning around in fucking
in crime scenes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yet they're always there. They're just poking around, getting their fingers dirty in the damn crime scene.
Right.
And nobody ever says, "Hey,
why are you here?"
Get the fuck. How many times the cat the thing is, I understand because they're always partnered up with a cop of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And they've got some sort of fucking...
You gotta have the tension.
They got some sort of chemistry or tension or something going on there. And that's all fine and good. But it seems like somebody higher up, like the captain or something, should be like, "Hey, I've had about enough of hearing about you and this fucking pizza delivery guy always at the fucking crime scene.
Exactly. Well, in
that's from my upcoming series, Delivery Murder.
my favorite example of this, and I know you haven't watched it, but I do highly recommend it. Anybody who wants something to watch,
okay,
especially if you're looking for something that'll take you a while.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually
because there are 18 seasons of it.
There's like 8 or 9 seasons of it, but they all have 23 episodes.
Okay,
like back in the old day. Which I've noticed, this is a sidetrack, but I've noticed a lot of shows right now, like everything is 10 episodes and done.
Well, yeah. They stole. They basically they saw what the UK was doing. They said, all right, if we shoot somewhere in the middle, because there were like 6 episodes, and that's that.
Right.
Good day.
Right.
Here's a Christmas episode if it makes you feel any better.
But the reason the British television did that was because that's a government-run institution, whereas here
they don't want to pay anything.
Yeah, the reason our studios have started doing it is because they don't have to pay anything for it.
So they're doing it for the same reasons, which is they don't want to pay anybody.
Right. But Psych and it's hilarious. It's funny as hell. It gets super meta after a while. Like there are just episodes that are just. There's a whole Twin Peaks episode. It's freaking hilarious.
Okay.
And it's just awesome. But it is a guy who's he actually could be a very talented detective, but he's sort of a loser and doesn't want to go to school and do anything. So he starts making money by calling tips into the police tip line. But then he starts to pretend he's a psychic. So then he can get in on these investigations. He's not really a psychic. He's just really good at actually sleuthing.
So is it kind of like The Mentalist?
Kind of.
Except for not.
Except for The Mentalist is not funny.
Okay, so it's The Mentalist but with humor.
Yeah, The Mentalist is what the guy is actually he's not even psychic. He's a magician.
He does
like a mentalist.
He reads people is what he does. Not in the way that he knows what they're thinking, but in the way that he knows what people's tells are.
Well, when you go to Vegas and you go to the mentalism shows and they're like, I can tell which audience member was born on March 29th, and then there was a series.
And the guy goes, "Oh, it was me!"
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. It was you, sir.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But there's always theatrics around it, and it's oh, you've read my mind. Oh my God. So it's that.
Somebody in here likes the color red.
Exactly.
It's the lady in red over here.
Exactly.
How did you know?
But I think, and you brought up this one earlier and I didn't add it because I was specifically keeping it to TV. And then he reminded me there was a TV show, was Batman, specifically in the 1960s, because he had a direct line, or the police had a direct line.
The police would call him on the hotline and be like, "Hey, Batman, we got a big case. You want to help us out?" And he'd be like, "Absolutely, Commissioner. I'll be right there."
And so Adam West in tights.
And he would drive on down there.
And in his little tights with his little sidekick.
Yeah.
And they would solve, and they would tie up the henchman. Yeah. With a pow and a bazam. And
biff. A biff too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Biff. So those are not qualified detectives, but they directly,
he solved it through fisticuffs.
Yeah, but they directly help the police solve these murders.
Police called him in when they had dirty work to do. They're like, there's some henchmen I'd really like to see get beat up, but we legally can't do that. I mean, nowadays cops would be like, yeah, we can totally get away with that. No. But I guess back in the 60s, they felt like, we can't just go around beating up guys in striped shirts. That's, but Batman can because he operates outside the law.
Right. So, well, and then real quick, I guess many of these could fall in. Like I said, these are loose categories. Okay. A lot of them are. But I had a Gone Rogue category. Oh, yeah. But they really fall into a lot of other categories too, because one of the shows that started this conversation too, was the new Peacock show starring Natasha Lyonne, Poker Face, that we both very much enjoyed.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
I enjoyed it very much.
Oh yeah,
I'm actually watching it because I made Matt watch it, so I'm watching it for a second time
around. Yeah. I'm pitching new things.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, yeah, it was a great show. It was good for a lot of reasons. I mean, first off, she's funny as hell. Mm-hmm. It's got a neat delivery.
It's a how done it.
It is
who
you know at the beginning who the person who was murdered was, and then it's how did they pull it off or whatever, and
right.
And then I like the because she has a kind of like, I guess, the old murder shows. It's always like a guest star of the week.
Yes. And there have been some great guest stars.
Yeah, there's some really good cameos. But I mean, I'd act like that was new, but they've been doing that since Murder, She Wrote, as far as I can remember.
Right.
Maybe even further back. I don't know.
I think so. But and you mentioned when I started watching it, and you're like, oh, it reminds me of Columbo, and I'm like, oh, it's just because Natasha Lyonne has that accent, which she does.
The gruff.
Sort of New York.
But she actually.
It turns out she does talk like that.
She does talk like Columbo, but also it wasn't just that. It was a particular mannerism in the way she questions people. So the gimmick in this is that she's able to read people, and that she knows when you're telling a lie.
Yeah, she's basically a human lie detector.
She's a human lie detector,
but she's also on the run from some other people. She's
gotten herself into some trouble. And so she's on the run, but while she's on the run, she keeps solving these mysteries all over the place.
Right.
But so her human lie detector thing means that what she does is when she thinks you're lying, she usually turns around and she asks you one last question that she already knows the fucking answer to.
Right.
Which, if you know anything about detective shows, a detective never asks you any question they don't already know the answer to.
At least on a show. I think
in real life, they probably ask you a lot of questions they don't know the answer to.
Right.
They're like, wait a minute now, and who fought in the Civil War?
Right, exactly.
Oh, well, that's news to me. All right, well, I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna look into that.
The War of Northern Aggression. Yeah. So, but also I found out afterwards that the show it really is based on Columbo. She wanted to do a reboot of Columbo and nobody would greenlight it. So she's like, fine then, I'm going to write my own show.
Yeah.
So
but she kept that part, which is that she's done with the whole interrogation thing. And then at the end she turns around and she pulls the Columbos. Oh, and one more thing. Although she doesn't really say it that way, but she always does turn around and she's like, oh, I just have one more question for you. And she'll ask you and this is the one where she's basically asking the question for you to give your tell. So she can see that you're a liar.
Right. And mind you, she's not working with the police, and no major spoilers, but because she doesn't want to be found. So she's not working with the police.
No.
So she sets it up in such a way that someone else is going to figure
out
what happened.
Solve it, and then she bolts,
and then the police come and it gets solved. So, and I filed that under Gone Rogue because I don't really know where it fits, but it definitely fits in the trope. I just don't know.
Oh, sure, yeah.
What
she shouldn't be going around solving murders, probably, but she is.
She is, just because she has a natural ability
to do
it.
And it was very watchable. If you're looking for something fun to watch,
very,
I will say watch that.
I enjoy it very much. Like I said, I'm watching it for a second time right now.
Yeah.
So, but the other one I put under Gone Rogue, but this could also fit under Murder Authors, which is the next category. Is the current series Only Murders in the Building, which is on Hulu. And it is a classic whodunit, except it's done in such a way that's very modern and very new and very fun. Yeah. They're podcasters. First of all, the cast is out of this world.
Oh, yeah. It gets better every season.
Season. And they do a lot of guest stars, too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's what I think why I say it gets better every season, because every season they add like more people to the cast or something.
Right. And it's not an episodic murder. It's not like there's a murder every day.
No. They take a season to solve an entire murder.
But the reason it could also fit under Murder Authors is because they do a podcast about it. Like they're solving, which I don't recommend, by the way. Do not start a podcast about an active murder.
No, I always feel like this is like some legal gray area too. Like, how muddy is this shit? Like, because you're not like supposed to talk about active investigations usually.
Well, if you're involved in, there have actually been a lot of podcasts that have led to like exonerations of people and things. But those people aren't like part of the investigation.
Right. But in these cases, these guys are always like, elbows deep in it.
Not only are they elbows deep, often they're accused of it.
Exactly. So for them to go on the podcast the next week and yak about it, it seems like this is a clear, like, I don't know, breach of something.
But it's such a fun show. And with Martin Short and Steve Martin.
That fellow with the white hair.
Yeah, that fellow that looked like Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Steve Martin. And also Selena Gomez, who I being not a teenage girl, I didn't really know who she was. I knew she did music and was like in some Disney stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what. And I started watching Only Murders in the Building, and she's out of this world.
And
then,
now you're a big Wizards of Waverly Place
well,
fan.
I actually think we might watch that for Halloween this year, but I have not, but I will. But also she did, during the pandemic, she had a show on HBO called Selena Plus Chef, where she did Zoom cooking with like celebrity chefs.
Oh yeah.
Where she was in her own house and they were in their own, because nobody could go anywhere. And it is the most delightful, wholesome show I have ever seen.
Okay.
It is so sweet and so great. I highly recommend it to anybody who is looking for something to watch.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with murder. She's just cooking. But
I mean, not that we know of yet.
Right. But she's delightful, an actor, and delightful a person, it seems. So
yeah,
I definitely, and so these two that you wrote down, that I think we need, I don't know where to slot them, because they're,
where
they're not really murder authors. They're kind of gone rogue, and they're not really, they don't fit into any of them really. Helps the police.
They're just helps the police. I think.
So I think somewhere above so Diagnosis Murder.
Yeah, which was Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke,
which was what made it watchable, was fucking Dick Van Dyke, because goddamn, like, what a treasure that guy is, right?
Oh, for sure. Well, and it falls. The reason I want to include it with murder authors, of course, because it really came out at the same time as and capitalized on the success of Murder, She Wrote. Right?
Sure, it was like Murder, She Wrote and Matlock. It was like the same time period. Well, it was tail end of those. Like those were kind of like on their way out when that came in. It was sort of a replacement.
But it was, here's a famous actor not known for this thing.
Yes.
And we're going to make this their vehicle right now.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true for Father Dowling Mysteries, which you put on here, which is, instead of a doctor or a novelist, is a priest. But he was also the dad from Happy Days. So Tom Bosling, right?
Right.
So
he also he was the sheriff on Murder, She Wrote.
That's right. That's right.
For at least the first season,
absolutely,
I want to say.
Yeah.
And then I guess they can't approach Tim and like, hey, how'd you like to do a different
Also,
murder?
I am not surprised that he was fired from the Cabot Cove Sheriff's Office, because murders kept happening there left and right.
And that sounds like a small town in Maine, right?
Very small town.
Also, this always bugged me, is that he didn't do the Maine accent.
No, yeah.
I mean, I understood that she didn't, because she had moved there.
She's British.
She's British and she had moved there. But it bothered me that none of the other people who lived in Cabot Cove had the Maine accent that all the characters in a Stephen King novel have.
Well, maybe as the sheriff, because we know sheriffs move around too.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe he had moved from somewhere else.
Yeah, he probably had, he moved from Georgia, where he had been
Milwaukee.
He had been he had been kicked out of the police force there for excessive force.
Yes, which is one of the things that happens. So I think
it's the same reason that he was Father Dowling.
Yeah, exactly.
He got moved from the other town because the bishop was like, "Oh God, this guy
too many murders, too many murders."
Unlike other priests, this guy just murdered and he didn't touch children.
Yeah, well, but that's
I mean, except to murder them.
Well, yeah. With those shows, with Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, Father Dowling, that came out, about the same era, and they were really catalysts for their actors more than they were about the plot. Yeah,
it was an actor vehicle, you would call it, right? Like they were just like, hey, we got this. Like when they were pitching it, they're probably, we got this thing, and then everybody's like, and they're like, and it's got Tom Bosley, and they're like, oh, Tom Bosley. Oh God, I remember years ago I was pitching something like this to somebody, and it was going to be a mechanic who solved crimes. And it was because cars would come into his shop and they would wind up being part of, like there would be a body in the trunk, or there'd be some sort of, I don't know, something. And what I was trying to, who was I? I think at the time I was thinking Alan Thicke.
Oh, yeah,
I was like, Alan Thicke would be the mechanic. He'd be like an aging mechanic, because there were always these aging actors, right? Like past their prime actor. I was like, who somebody in that age range. He's like in their like 60s or something, And I was like, Alan Thicke, and he's an auto mechanic that solves murders. And I forgot I had a cute name for it too. Goddamn! Now I'm trying to remember what it was.
That sounds like I think you should pitch that.
And I have to come up with a new actor though, because I think Alan Thicke is.
He's very dead.
He's very dead now.
He's quite dead.
Although he was the person that the character in How I Met Your Mother was singing about. Remember?
Yes. Yes.
What I forgot what her stage name was now.
The Robin Sparkles.
Robin Sparkles. He was the person that Robin Sparkles was singing about in her song. That was really, if you think about it, the beginning of grunge.
It was, yes, but only after, because she was also a teen star before,
right, yes.
and she sang "Let's Go to the Mall." So good stuff. Here we go. Have the if you don't love Toddler Cop, I got one for you. Here's one for you. Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of Toddler Cop,
oh yeah.
Well, so then the murder authors, was Murder She Wrote, obviously, but then the show Castle was absolutely a murder author show.
Yes.
I have actually never watched it. But
you never watched it?
Well, it wasn't available on any of the streaming services I had.
Oh, it's on.
It is
I feel
now.
Like we've gone back and watched it. I haven't watched it all the way through, but I do put it on sometimes when I'm just looking for something random. Like, I just need to fill an hour. I'll go watch an episode of Castle.
Now that it's on something, because we're always looking for something to watch.
Well, I will say this. Nathan Fillion is the kind of guy where, honest to God, you could watch him read the phone book. You know what I mean? He's in a fucking stupid police show that I watch.
Yeah, The Rookie.
I watch. It's terrible. It's goddamn terrible. I'll say this. It's fucking terrible, and I watch it because Nathan Fillion's in. No, I'm going to say that. There's about 4 people. There are 4 talented actors and about 18 hacks on that show. And the writing is hack writing. Okay? But I watch it because Nathan Fillion,
he's just delightful.
He can sell it.
Yeah. No, Nathan, I've been a fan of Nathan Fillion. I mean, most people are like, Firefly. But the show I saw him on the first time was Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Yeah.
Which was also the first main production that anyone knew who Ryan Reynolds was.
Okay.
And I fucking love that show. I actually have been trying to find that streaming for years.
Has that not been
I cannot find it streaming anywhere. So.
Yeah, but Nathan Fillion, I'm just telling you, like, Castle's, it's way better than The fucking Rookie is what I'll say. It's better written. I mean, it's one of those shows where, you're like, this is the probability of this. Like, I don't see why the police captain puts up with this shit. Oh, you know what's related to this? That thing that fucking Will Arnett did recently.
Oh, the one. Oh,
it's basically making fun of Castle.
Wait, yeah, when it was an improv.
Oh yeah, well, I forgot what it was called now.
Oh crap, I can't remember what it's called. It was on Netflix and it was all improv. In every episode, so he was like the grizzled old cop.
Yeah.
Divorced cop, because that was part of the story. Oh God.
And every week he'd have a different ride-along person.
Yeah, and the ride-along person was always a celebrity. And like he went, because it was improv, it was fucking hilarious.
But it was it was Castle, I think, was like,
yeah.
Basically it was like, here's Castle, except for every week is a different person.
Yes. But the celebrity guest every week didn't know the story. Like they were only given a brief.
Yeah.
Whereas Will Arnett and the other main characters knew the story.
Yeah. So
they would be just, saying shit. And then the celebrity would be like, and like sometimes the celebrities aren't actors.
Yeah.
Like one episode, the celebrity was, the football guy. Oh God, I know this. He's on Stars on Mars right now, which by the way, if you're looking for something ridiculously fun to watch, Marshawn Lynch.
Okay.
And it was Marshawn Lynch, who was just a football guy. He's like a great big football player.
Yeah.
And he was the guest and he was the ride along. And he was actually like because you assume some actors are actually good at improv.
Yeah.
And some of them were not. Like some of them it would just be, but he actually he wasn't good per se, but he was funny.
Well,
because he would pick up on stuff or he would have the best reactions or whatever. It was so fucking funny. If I just look it up, Will Arnett.
I'm just saying, but I feel like that show is basically it's basically a goof on Castle or that type of thing.
Any of those types. Yes. Yeah. It's a goof on the entire genre. And it's so funny that it is also not a concept that could have lasted very long. I think there were maybe 6 or 8 episodes.
Sure.
Because after a while, that just the premise gets
the joke
studied.
will get out, and then
right. Then celebrities, they're going to ask to be on it.
Right, and then it's not a thing anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, I get that. It's it's a thing that can happen for a short period.
Right. Yeah, you got to get that lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
So I came up with this. I don't have a lot under this one. Oh, thank you. Yes, Jay, that's correct. Murderville. Because it wasn't the same. It was like the Murder, She Wrote, where this one town happens to have an assload of murders happening all the time. So
per capita crime rate in this town is way too high for the size
you don't want to live here.
Yeah.
But
it's like East St. Louis.
It is really funny.
Also, speaking of crime, you never want to live in a town that's across the river from a big city, and the name of the town is a cardinal direction big city.
Right.
That town is always shit. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you.
Well, yeah, no, and not just in murder. I'm
talking about real life.
Real life, yeah,
in real life.
West Memphis, Tennessee.
West Memphis.
I mean,
yes. East St. Louis, anything like that. Like, fuck that. You don't want to live there.
I'll tell you what. In Detroit, there was an East Detroit for a long time, and it changed its name
because it got a reputation.
Because it had a shitty reputation. Huh. It's now East.
What about South Detroit though?
That is Canada. In case you're wondering.
Okay. Is it shitty though?
Well, no,
actually they've got health care.
It's good. It's delightful.
They got health care and they got a beaver on the nickel.
Well, Steve Perry has actually said he's like, I didn't know anything about Detroit. I was just trying to write like a good.
No, yeah, I know. He said and he tried it with all the other cardinal directions, and none of them worked. Only South sounded good.
Right, and only like East Detroit was the only actual city. Mm-hmm. There's no West Detroit because West Detroit is some other suburbs. North Detroit is also some other suburbs.
While we're on the subject of this foolishness, this always bothered me. You know the song "The Night Chicago Died" by Paper Lace? Mm-hmm. He's always talking about on the east side of Chicago, and I'm like, the lake?
The east side of Chicago is Lake Michigan. Yeah, exactly.
You mean the lake?
Exactly. All right, so I did want to add, only because a couple of people fell into this category, but I think this is a very fluid list. Yeah. Eccentrics, right?
The eccentrics.
Yeah, and there's a couple from other lists that would also fall into that. But obviously the primary person that you would think of for this, and the reason that it's actually the most used property in television and movie and things because it has been in the public domain for so long, was Sherlock.
Sure.
So Sherlock Holmes has been used in public domain, so you can do anything with Sherlock.
Yeah.
You can make up all kinds of Sherlock shit because it's completely available.
It's free, huh?
Yes.
How about Hercule Poirot? Is he free now?
Actually, I don't know. Nobody's done a TV show. Or no, there was a Poirot.
There was a TV show. That's what I know him from. Actually, Kenneth Branagh put out
the movie. Yeah, I saw one of them.
I couldn't. My problem was, I love the guy from the TV show, and nobody's gonna be Hercule Poirot to me except that fucking guy.
All right, I'll tell you what. Know? So I did not watch the show, although now that you say it, I'm familiar with it. And I do love Kenneth Branagh.
Oh God, it just reminded me of another fucking show I used to watch, another murder show I used to watch. There's one called The Cadfile Mysteries. You remember this? It was about a monk back in the 14th century who solved murders.
Yeah. See, that is both eccentric and gone rogue and maybe murder author.
Yeah, and person who shouldn't be solving.
Solving.
I mean, I don't know. Back in the 14th century, maybe monks did solve the murders.
Who else did?
Nobody else gave a shit. They were like, "Guy's dead. What are we supposed to do?"
But yeah, Agatha Christie. I actually don't. I think Agatha Christie's estate still owns, so that's a research project.
So they still have
But I do love, and we're talking about TV, but I do love Kenneth Branagh, and I did watch Murder on the Nile, and I liked it enough, except they went into like the backstory of Hercule Poirot. I'm like, I don't need that. Like, I don't care. He should just be the mysterious guy with the mustache who shows up and solves the crime.
Yeah, he just shows up.
I don't care.
The only thing you know about this guy is he's got a mustache. And he
speaks with a French accent.
And if you call him French, he gets mad because he's Belgian. And and he has an affinity for wanting to, or his only goal is he wants to retire to the country and raise the vegetable marrows.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
But I didn't, because they did.
I assume it's loofahs. I don't fucking know.
They did Murder on the Orient Express, and I did not see that one. Then I saw Murder on the Nile because I don't know. I think it was like available to rent on something.
Sure.
But there's a new one coming out. I can't remember what it is, but it's going to be at the Bruin View, and that's like I'll go see anything at the Bruin View because it's reasonably cheap. Anyway, so
I do like the character Hercule Poirot though, and I like the guy from the BBC.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Kenneth Branagh and other things. I just, like I said, that guy from the BBC, he sold me. Like, he was Hercule Poirot, and I'm like, I have a hard time with anybody else.
Well, and Sherlock Holmes, obviously, he's been in everything. But then the latest BBC series was probably, at least for current, is what everybody really loves. And it's really good.
Because, Cucumber
Bandersnatch.
It was
exactly everybody loves him.
He's great. Yeah, I like that. I like the spin they put on it because they made him like he was autistic or something. And which actually explains a lot about his sort of like fucking aloof. And
they leaned into the eccentricness of it and they modernized it because they put it in modern day. And then everybody that they had on it, Martin Freeman, like it's just really good. And the one I wanted to include on there that I actually have not watched, but now I might put it on my list of things to watch is Monk. Starring Tony Shalhoub. Who I like in everything else he's been in.
He's brilliant. Yeah. I love that guy.
And it is because he's a someone who solves. I actually don't know what his role is, but I don't know if he's a detective or a police person. I don't know what he does.
Only thing I remember about it was
he has OCD.
He's like always washing his hands and he won't touch things and weird.
But that makes it quirky, and plus he's a great actor, so we might put that on our list. We're always looking for new things to watch in the evenings. But before we go, there's one last category.
Oh gosh,
which is teen sleuths.
The teen.
Oh yes, he's a former police detective. Yes, the teen sleuths, which of course I think this is not. So the model for this is really Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys.
Probably, yes.
And I mean, the books, of course, the Hardy Boys, he said there was one in the 60s. There's a new Nancy Drew that I've not watched because it's on the CW. And the CW is...
you lost me at the CW.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what it's mostly going to be is a bunch of love triangle.
Exactly.
And I don't care for love triangle.
Exactly.
That's like theme I just don't care about. So,
but as far as I'm concerned, my favorite, unless you count Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which starts out as... It's supernatural and it's teens, but they also become adults in the show. So eventually it stops being teen, which is the problem with these shows is because there's
they were
expiration date.
Sure.
But it's Veronica Mars. I loved Veronica Mars.
Veronica Mars was it's because the entire cast was awesome. Rob Thomas, just, I don't know. He's
not the singer, but
the
producer.
The producer, he's good at like giving a healthy mix of like seriousness, but also kind of a lighthearted. Like there's some funny. I don't know. Does he have anything to do with Party Down? I think he does.
I think so.
Because everybody from Veronica Mars is on Party Down, right?
True. Everybody but Kristen.
No, she was on it for a minute.
Oh, that's right. She wasn't very rude, but she wasn't a main character.
She wasn't a main character, but she did cycle in for a couple episodes. Yes.
He might have something to do with that. Yeah. But Veronica Mars, but I think even
he also had something to do with iZombie, which I could totally feel as soon as I watched it. I was like, "This is the same guy who did Veronica Mars," and I said that before I even saw his name pop up. I was like,
my favorite part about that was, oh yes, Monk is very worth watching. Yes, I agree. I think we're gonna add it to the list. We're always looking for something to watch in the evenings, so we'll find wherever it's streaming and watch it. But I think one that you have to mention for teen, even though it's not really, they are teens. I don't know that it's specifically specified, but they are. Is Scooby-Doo?
Sure.
And Scooby-Doo led the way. Like in Buffy, they call the core group are called the Scooby Gang.
Okay.
And the reason they're called the Scooby Gang is because of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Right? So
sure.
Scooby-Doo is, I think they're meant to be teens.
Sure. Well, they're based on the characters from The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, which were teens in the show. I mean, they're probably 20-year-olds playing teens, but you know what I mean.
Well, right. And in this case, they're animated teens that are teens for 15 years.
Yes.
or infinitely teens, like the Simpsons.
The only time they're not teens is in a pup named Scooby-Doo, in which case they are children. You remember that one? Did you watch that? It was a prequel show that came out in the late 80s, I want to say.
But I do want to mention too, relatively recent, Riverdale, which is based on the Archie comics, but is very, very dark. And it got super stupid after a couple seasons. But the first season was basically Twin Peaks, but Archie comics.
Huh. And Archie was going through a thing right then where it was doing some sort of dark stuff too.
Yeah, in the comics, and it was the guy who took over the comics that did the series,
right? So he's the same guy who I think pitched the Sabrina series.
The Teenage Witch. Yeah, the darker version. Yes, absolutely, and in the comics, like it all mirrored itself.
Yeah.
But the very new honorable mention, well, it's not. It's truly a whodunit. Is Wednesday, the Wednesday Addams series on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a teen whodunit from start to finish.
Sure,
so,
but also supernatural.
And also it was supernatural in the world in which they exist.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So it fits under all of that. Supernatural, teen, eccentric. I mean,
shouldn't be helping the police.
Should not be helping the police in any way, shape, or form. And that show, I wasn't expecting, I didn't know what to expect from it, and I watched it. I thought it had it had a twist I kind of saw coming. I'm like, oh, I could see this happening. But then when it happened, I was like, oh shit, that's what happened. So I actually very much enjoyed it.
I'm trying to remember how I felt about the way it shook out, but I found it enjoyable, even though I went into it thinking I'm not going to like this very much. Probably,
I think it was just fun.
Yeah,
we watched it at the same time because we didn't have Netflix when these both came out. So when we got Netflix, we watched Wednesday and Sandman at the same time.
Okay.
So obviously similar, not even similar genre. It was similar gothness.
Yeah. Okay.
Of both of them, but not similar tones and not similar subjects. But I did notice as we were watching it, like Sandman was really heavy.
Yeah.
Whereas Wednesday was goth and dark, but it was light and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, like, the same kind of the feeling of like, and this is why I guess I kind of like this time of year I'll start to watch the Addams Family movies from the 90s. I'll watch them over and over again, and they're like comfort food to me because they're dark but they're light. You know what I mean? Like,
right? They're
funny but spooky. I don't know.
Yeah, that reminds me that we always look for Halloween-y shows to watch.
You look Halloween. For what is it? You say you're looking for in your Halloween stuff. You're not looking for scary.
Oh, I don't like scary and no horror.
I just spooky.
I like spoopy. I like spoopy.
She wants a spoopy show.
So, but that reminds me, maybe one of the things that Matt and I should watch around Halloween is like the original Addams Family.
The TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember liking it when I was a kid.
It's actually I've rewatched it, not the whole series, but I've rewatched a few episodes here and there.
Right, maybe that's the thing I just picked. Like I go to a list of top 10.
They're pretty good though. It holds up well, and it's you want an interesting fun fact, folks. The living room in the Addams Family was hot pink.
Yes, I do know that because the black and white. When they put it on black and white film, it popped better as gray. Like gray and black and white didn't translate to the film.
Right.
So yeah, I did know that, which would be awesome to talk about one of my favorite parts about the Wednesday series was the juxtaposition between Wednesday and her roommate Ian.
Oh yeah, right.
So it would be totally Barbie-core. Yeah. Like if you really saw what it looked like in real life.
Yeah.
So,
although that's become a subgenre of goth now. There's like these I don't know what you call it, like rainbow goth or something.
Sure, two of my favorite drag queens are actually they're twins, and they're Sugar and Spice.
Okay, and
Spice is goth, but Sugar is like bubblegum goth.
Yeah,
and that's what they're a lot of fun to watch.
Right,
but okay. I think we drilled this genre into the ground.
Sure.
Like we talked about every possible.
We actually did hit all the bullet points.
We really
today,
did,
which we usually don't do.
That's true. Well, that's why I didn't expand it because if I that's why I kept it to TV tropes because if I expanded it, we would have never gotten through it.
Oh gosh,
never gotten through it. But in the meantime, We've got some pizza to go eat, so why don't you take us away?
All righty. Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie. The opinions of Bill are his and his alone, unless Laura agreed with him, in which case then they agreed, and then they share that opinion, and vice versa. Yak, 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 blah, blah, blah. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook, and hashtag Opinion Gang if you have anything to say about us, or a question or comment or concern or idea for future show. And otherwise, tune in next week. Next week, we'll be talking about
economics.
Economics.
This involved a lot of hand wringing to decide.
Oh, yeah, we went back and forth on that.
A whole bunch. But economics is what we decided on.
The economy. The economy stupid.
The economy in general. Finances, monies.
All that stuff.
All of it.
Money laundering. That's when you leave a couple dollars in your pants pockets and then it comes out of the dryer and you're like, hey.
Jay actually the other day, and I agree with this.
Yeah.
The finding some money in your Venmo is the current equivalent of finding money in your pocket.
I don't have a Venmo because I don't trust that shit. Like, I have PayPal, and that's the only I don't trust it.
Those are the same companies, right?
Whatever. I don't know.
They are the same.
I don't need multiple ones.
Well, Venmo is so. This is for next week. We'll talk about this next week.
We'll talk about next week.
All right, folks.
Yeah.
We will see you then. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.
All righty.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.